I always say, man, my favorite thing in mixed martial arts and fighting in general, but my favorite thing is seeing a young champion be crowned after a hell of a journey. It's my favorite thing. It's always the best part of it. It feels like the happiest they ever are is winning that first title. There's not so many questions about, do it against this guy, do it against this guy. How impressive a champion are they? They're just that unbridled joy of winning that first belt when a guy gets it done is really, really unbelievable. And honestly, tonight couldn't have gone better for Bellator. Tonight couldn't have gone better for AJ McKee. That promotion feels like they have a legitimate superstar in the making, in their prime, in their sport. And, we had Scott Coker on this week, had a chance to speak with him, and his reign over Bellator, I would say, has been very interesting. It talks a little bit about just the idea that they had to go and spend on free agents just to kind of get people peeking into the curtain and see what was going on with Bellator and their style. But the interesting thing was, his first tenure, a lot of it was these big circusy fights, Chael Sonnen, Fedor, all these guys that they were bringing in to kind of, bringing Shamrock back, Kimbo versus Dada, all these big time spectacles to give, people a little bit of a peek into what their young talent is. And they've been doing a really fascinating thing with having all of these young fighters basically get their entire career to unfold right before you. So, for example, in the UFC, a lot of these guys, you see like Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series, a lot of people go to that and they go and fight with 7 fights under the belt, 5 fights under the belt, maybe even more. And then they do all of that with the hopes of getting to the UFC. And in the UFC, it's usually sink or swim. I think of a guy like Chase Hooper, who was like in Titan FC at 18 years old, gets the opportunity to go to the UFC, and he's like taking on Alex Caceres in his second fight. It's tough. But Bellator has been doing this thing with a lot of their young fighters, and it hasn't gone perfect for all of them, for sure. You look at a guy like Aaron Pico, who we've spoken to pretty recently, where he had some lost his first pro fight, had some big stumbles, big knockout losses. And everybody thought that the guy was going to be the truth. And maybe he still will be. He's still super young. But AJ McKee is the guy who Bellator had taken from the start. He has gone undefeated this entire run, longest Bellator win streak. And now, after last night, he is 18-0. The featherweight champion, the featherweight Grand Prix champion. Bellator, in a weird way, went back to its roots with the and Scott with Strikeforce as well, but went back to the tournament style, and he comes out on top. And just everything about it was just such a perfect night. You think about the hometown entrance for AJ McKee. He felt like a star walking in. He felt like a bigger star walking out. And he takes out a guy in Patricio Pitbull who, had so much credibility to him, and it has been really a long time coming. I mean, this is a guy who was a dual weight champion, has been champion at featherweight forever, has a win over Michael Chandler, who was the ultimate, I would say Michael Chandler probably is the face of Bellator up until tonight, where maybe you could say Patricio Pitbull was the face of Bellator, but I would say it's probably more Michael Chandler, even if Patricio's got the better resume. And now it feels like tonight that the face, Patricio's face of Bellator, is pretty short-lived, because now it feels like AJ McKee is for sure the face of Bellator. And, I mean, just about as perfect a finish as you can get. He hits him with a head kick, drops him, really wobbles him, hits him with a combination, puts him down, steps back and celebrates because he's about to walk off. Ref Mike Beltran doesn't stop it, so he goes for a guillotine choke. And there was some controversy with the stoppage, in that some people thought that AJ McKee basically stopped the fight himself. Like he had Pitbull linked up, and then you could see Pitbull's arm drop like that. So And as soon as it did, he goes, he's out. And Mike Beltran jumps in and stops the fight. Now, he wasn't asleep, but it did look like, Pitbull was pretty rubbery. Like, it looked like if he didn't let it go and he wasn't out, he was going to be out. And I didn't think like he was in any fighting shape once he was let go. It's not like there was this grand protest from him. He was pretty beat up. I mean, he had basically taken a head kick that basically would have knocked most people out, took a combination that looked like it knocked him out, and then was choked to the point of basically going unconscious. It was the triple crown for AJ McKee. I mean, it's legendary stuff with what he put forth there. And I gotta tell you, I loved, Bellator. I loved how it was celebrated in that it was like confetti. It did, like, AJ McKee said there in his hometown, he's saying that, like, LA, this is what we do, we win championships. It felt like a team winning a championship. Like, I always say that, like, the Cleveland Cavaliers get the credit for breaking the Cleveland curse, even though Stipe was the guy to do it first. And, imagine if it kind of had that feel of, like, confetti raining down, all that type of stuff. So AJ McKee was just tremendous tonight. And the interesting thing is going to be, like he said an interesting thing in the euphoria of all of that, where he says, I'm never going to let this belt go. No mention, and I don't expect him to mention the UFC or any of those goals or anything. It's a Bellator broadcast, but it is going to be interesting to see, like, they put all of this investment into him. He has been with them now for almost 20 pro fights. Is there ever going to be that itch to go? Is he, and I'm not suggesting I already want to talk about AJ McKee jumping ship, because, people are talking about they want matchups against Volkanovski and Holloway and Ortega. And it's only natural, because that's been, UFC's just been the most famous promotion for a while. But the interesting thing is going to be, look at it, Bellator does have this light heavyweight division that's, definitely on par with what the UFC has to offer. And then you have this featherweight champion who may go up to lightweight. Lightweight's in a bit of a weird spot right now in the UFC. Could this be a guy who is enough of a face for Bellator MMA that, people will start, going and say, oh, AJ McKee's fighting on tonight? Definitely got to watch it, no matter who he's fighting. I think you have a performance like this, that's definitely going to be the case the next time that he goes out there. It's a guy who's had a lot of confidence about himself for a long time. He said he wanted to be the Floyd Mayweather of mixed martial arts. Tonight was a christening-like performance that was worthy of that type of hype, that type of confidence, and all the praise in the world. That's what he deserves. And so it's going to be interesting if this guy does carry that, and if Scott Coker, who is a master of developing talent, and he is a master of bringing in those kind of stars of tomorrow, seeing those guys before anybody else does, he looks like he's created another one. And a lot of that credit goes to AJ and his father and all that type of stuff and all the hard work that they put in. But it's still a true testament to him, because look, I've definitely been critical of Bellator at times since this run. I'm just like, what is the whole point of this? What are they doing? And tonight felt like a night where you think back to like the Madison Square Garden card where they were going for big pay-per-views and all this type of stuff, but tonight just felt monstrous on premium cable, all that type of stuff. And AJ just going out there and having the performance that he did, really unleashing all of his tools, getting it done in the first round, doing it against a guy who, again, just has a lot of credibility. Like, didn't just do it and did it against somebody nobody knows. He did it against a bearer of the torch of the previous era of Bellator, and it felt like there was definitely a passing of the torch, a real taking of the torch from AJ McKee. And it felt like one of those performances where you're just like, I'm always going to remember this with that guy's career, the night that he knocked out Patricio Pitbull. So a big shout out to AJ McKee for that performance last night. I think a lot of people were electrified by it. He really put on a hell of a show. And I think that fans are going to be excited about watching him for a long time. I mean, you're talking about 26 years old. That's nothing in mixed martial arts as far as age is concerned. And now it's going to feel like the next time he fights is an event. And if he continues to put forth performances like this, every time could feel that way. And it could. I think it's really, tonight felt like one of the more significant nights in Bellator history for sure. Just a real win for them and a real win for AJ McKee all around. And it'd be interesting to see what they do next. It'll be with him. Where does he go? Because it feels like anything in any direction that they go in can really, really turn to gold.